So in part 2 of chapter 3 of Harry Potter's and the Sorcerer's Stone, Harry keeps getting letters addressed to him, even though he's moved all over the house, but they're literally addressed to like wherever room he's in, and Uncle Vernon keeps taking them away. Let's continue. On Friday, no fewer than 12 letters arrived for Harry. As they couldn't go through the letterbox, they had been pushed under the door, slotted through the sides, and even a few were forced through the small window in the downstairs toilet. Uncle Vernon stayed at home again. After burning all the letters, he got out a hammer and nails and boarded up the cracks around the front and back doors so that nobody could get out. He hummed Tiptoe Through the Tulips as he worked and jumped at small noises. On Saturdays, things began to get out of hand. 24 letters arrived to Harry, found their way into the house, rolled up and hidden in each of the 24 eggs that their very confused milkman had handed Petunia through the living room window. While Uncle Vernon made furious telephone calls to the post office and the dairy was trying to find someone to complain to, Aunt Petunia shredded the letters in her food mixer. Who on earth wants to talk to you this badly? Dudley asked Harry in amazement. On Sunday morning, Uncle Vernon sat down at the breakfast table looking tired and rather ill, but happy. No posts on Sunday, he reminded them happily as he spread marmalade on the newspaper. No letters today. There's Uncle Vernon boarding up the house. Something came whizzing down the kitchen chimney as he spoke and caught him sharply on the back of the head. The next moment, 30 or 40 letters came pelting out of the fireplace like bullets. The Dursleys ducked, but Harry leapt into the air trying to catch one. Out! Get out! Uncle Vernon seized Harry around the waist and threw him into the hall. When Aunt Petunia and Dudley ran out with their arms over their faces, Uncle Vernon slammed the door shut. They could hear the letters still streaming into the room, bouncing off the walls and the floor. That does it, said Uncle Vernon, trying to speak calmly, but pulling great tufts of his mustache at the same time. I want you all back here in 5 minutes, ready to leave. We're going away. Just pack some clothes. No arguments. He looked so dangerous, with half his mustache missing, that no one dared to argue. 10 minutes later, they had wrenched their way through the boarded-up doors and were in the car, speeding towards the motorway. Dudley was sniffling in the back of his seat. His father had hit him round the head for holding them up while he tried to pack his television, video, and computer in his sports bag. They drove, and then they drove. Even Aunt Petunia didn't dare ask where they were going. Every now and then, Uncle Vernon would take a sharp turning and drive in the opposite direction. Shake 'em off, he would mutter whenever he did this. They didn't stop to eat or drink that day. By nightfall, Dudley was howling. He had never had such a bad day in his whole life. He was hungry. He'd missed 5 television programs he'd wanted to see, and he'd never gone so long without blowing up an alien on his computer. Uncle Vernon stopped at last outside a gloomy-looking hotel on the outskirts of a big city. Dudley and Harry shared a room with twin beds and damp, musty sheets. Dudley snored, but Harry stayed awake, sitting on the windowsill, staring at the lights of passing cars and wondering. They ate stale cornflakes and cold tinned tomatoes on toast for breakfast that day. They had just finished when the owner of the hotel came over to their table. Excuse me, sir, but is one of you's Mr. H. Potter? But got about 100 of these at the front desk. She held up a letter so they could read the green ink. Mr. H. Potter, room 17, Railview Hotel, Cokeworth. Harry made a grab for the letter, but Uncle Vernon knocked his hand out of the way. The woman stared. I'll take them, said Uncle Vernon, standing up quickly and following her from the dining room. Wouldn't it be better to just go home, dear? Aunt Petunia suggested timidly hours later, but Uncle Vernon didn't seem to hear her. Exactly what he was looking for, none of them knew. He drove them into the middle of the forest, got out, looked around, shook his head, got back into the car, and off they went. The same thing happened in the middle of a plowed field. Halfway across a suspension bridge, and then the top of a multi-story car park. Daddy's gone mad, hasn't he? Dudley asked Aunt Petunia dully late in the afternoon. Uncle Vernon parked at the coast, locked them all inside the car, and disappeared. It started to rain. Great drops beat on the roof of the car, and Dudley sniveled. "It's Monday," he told his mother. "The great Humberto's on tonight. I want to stay somewhere with a TV." Monday. This reminded Harry of something. If it was Monday, and you could usually count on the Dudley to know the days of the week because of television, then tomorrow, Tuesday, was Harry's 11th birthday. Of course, his birthdays were never exactly fun. Last year, the Dursleys had given him a coat hanger and a pair of Uncle Vernon's old socks. Still, you weren't 11 every day. Uncle Vernon was back, and he was smiling. He was also carrying a long, thin package and didn't answer Aunt Petunia when she asked what he had bought. "Found the perfect place," he said. "Come on, everybody out." It was very cold outside the car. Uncle Vernon was pointing at what looked like a large rock out to sea. Perched on top of the rock was the most miserable little shack you could imagine. One thing was certain. There was no television in there. "Storm forecast for tonight," said Uncle Vernon gleefully, and this gentleman kindly agreed to lend us his boat. A toothless old man came climbing up to them, pointing, rather a wicked grin, at an old rowing boat bobbing in the gray water below them. I've got us some rations," said Uncle Vernon, "so all aboard." It was freezing in the boat. Icy sea spray and rain crept down to their necks, and a chilly wind whipped at their faces. After what seemed like hours, they reached the rock where Uncle Vernon, slipping and sliding, led the way to a broken-down house. Inside the house was horrible. It smelled strongly of seaweed, and the wind whistled through the gaps in the wooden walls. And the fireplace was so damp and empty, and there were only 2 rooms. Uncle Vernon's rations turned out to be a pack of chips each and 4 bananas. He tried to start a fire, but the empty crisp packets just smoked up and shriveled. "Could do with some of those letters now, huh?" he said cheerfully. He was in a very good mood. Obviously, he thought nobody stood a chance reaching them here in the storm to deliver the post. Harry privately agreed, though the thought didn't cheer him up. As night fell, the promised storm blew up around them. Spray from the high waves splattered the walls of the hut, and a fierce wind rattled the filthy windows. Aunt Petunia found moldy blankets in the second room and made a bed for Dudley on a moth-eaten sofa. She and Uncle Vernon went to the lumpy bed next door, and Harry was left to find the softest bit of floor he could to curl up under the thinnest, most raggedy blanket. The storm raged more and more ferociously as the night went on. Harry couldn't sleep. He shivered and turned over, trying to get comfortable. His stomach rumbled with hunger. Dudley's snores were drowned by the low rolls of thunder that started near midnight. The lighted dial of Dudley's watch, which was dangling over the edge of the sofa, told Harry he'd be 11 in 10 minutes' time. He lay and watched his birthday tick nearer, wondering if the Dursleys would remember at all, wondering where the letter writer was now. 5 minutes to go. Harry heard something creak outside. He hoped the roof wasn't going to fall in, although he might be warmer if it did. 4 minutes to go. Maybe the house in Privet Drive would be so full of letters when they got back he'd be able to sneak one away. 3 minutes. Was that the sea slapping hard on the rock like that? And 2 minutes ago, what was that funny crunching noise? Was the rock crumbling into the sea? 1 minute to go, and he would be 11. 30 seconds. 20. 10. 9. Maybe he'd wake Dudley up just to annoy him. 3, 2, 1. Boom! The whole shack shivered, and Harry sat upright, staring at the door. Someone was outside, knocking to come in. All right, here's a picture of Uncle Vernon rowing to the little shack. All right, we will read chapter 4 tomorrow. I hope you guys enjoyed.